Thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to cover some stretches that'll help achy or sore low back. If you have a major low back injury, please make sure you see a doctor before you try any of the stuff on this video. Most of the time what I see when people say that they stretch, it sort of looks like this. They come up to maybe a basketball court if they're about to play basketball, or they're going to start a run and they'll do one of these, maybe one of these, maybe a neck rotation. Okay, I'm ready to go. That is not stretching. Usually you want to include a mobility program just like you would include a strength program. So some of the stretches that we're going to go over today can be done in some cases before and after. Most of the stretches that I do with my clients, I like to do once they have a good amount of body heat, so midway through, during their workout, and a little bit at the end. So we're going to start off with the classic forward fold. Now I like to put a couple changes on this. Now if your back or hamstrings are really tight, you really can't bend over. A lot of people will bend over and it'll look a little like this, like that's all I got. If that's all you got to get your hips supported against the wall and bend the knees so that you can get into the hamstrings and the back. And the hands can hang down freely or arms crossed. If you're more mobile, you can come away from the wall, legs straight, with the knees, the little micro bend in the knees, and hang down and relax to open up the back. But remember, your hip flexors can be a bit of a nuisance, and so we have to work into the hip flexors because you can do that stretch and be very mobile and still have a sore low back. Now we're going to go into a lunge stretch. Now lunge stretches are incredibly deceiving. You're going to see a lot of people advertising that they're doing a lunge stretch for the hip flexors, but I'll see an excessive amount of movement in their low back. So the secret is to keep the abs slightly pulled in so that the pelvis and the back is neutral. If you're really archy and relaxing through your back and extending out this way, you're going to give into a tight hip flexor. So instead, pull in your abs slightly so you're engaging your core a little bit, and then the pelvis comes under. And that drive will drive more of the stretch into the upper thigh here. This is your lunge stretch. Make sure you do both sides. It'll start to loosen up your hip flexors. All right, for our S stretch, we kind of start off with the legs crossed position. I have a lot of my guy clients who cannot sit on the floor like this, and if they do, their knees are pointing straight up because their hips are so tight. So if your hips are really tight, this S stretch is a great variation, but it's basically like a one-legged version of this. So I'm going to take one leg and bring it behind me, kind of like doing a hurdler. Now this allows us to get into a variation of what I call a pigeon pose in yoga without getting into some of the tightness that might impede you from doing the position. What's nice about this is you can lean forward and add stretch, or if you're getting a lot of stretch here, you can actually support yourself with your hand. Make sure you do both sides. So the next movement we're going to go over is a box pigeon, which is a variation of a pigeon pose. And I really like this one because even some of the stiffest people that I work with can do it. Now I keep a couple of these blankets at my gym so I can use as props to make it so that you feel it in the muscle tissue. If you're feeling it in your knee or your ankle, you need some more support. I'm going to use this block here and I'm going to elevate my leg. Now optimally I like to see this leg about 90 degrees. Now from here I can lower myself down and I get a nice stretch in this right hip as I'm doing this stretch. Now if I feel like it's really tight, you'll see a client prop up the leg. If you feel like you can't lower yourself onto that elevated surface, give yourself some support so that again you're setting yourself up so that you can relax and do a stretch. We need some time. Now the glutes are really tight, you're going to start losing function. So this is a great way to start loosening up and increase your proficiency in your sport. For a little hip flexor tractioning, one of the easiest ones that I use is get people in their bed at night trying to open up their hip flexors. Now this seems like a bit of a no-brainer, but you got to give yourself stretches where you give yourself some time. So I can use again my blanket for support on the low back. In this case I'm just going to put it under my head and neck so I can talk to you. So lay on the side of your bed here, and then from here you have one leg hanging off, so you're opening up your hip flexor. Now to add a little level of intensity, I draw the foot back. Now I'm going to pull up on my shirt so that you can see the arch in the low back. If this is too excessive, you're going to do the same thing you were doing in your lunge stretch. Make sure you're not giving in and caving in your low back too much. We want to pull in the abs and flatten out the back. So you'll notice I just did that. Now if you can't do it while you're reading or looking at a TV, you can actually put a support a little bit under your low back. So this is our traction for the hip flexors.